This episode of The Young Turks, brought to you by Thrillist. Admiral Mullen, and who's, of course, the head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff now, and Defense Secretary Robert Gates went in front of the Senate, and they were talking about don't ask, don't tell. The Pentagon study on it has come out. Now, John McCain had said earlier, look, if the military leaders come and tell me that it's time for a repeal, then we will do that. In fact, I've got the exact quote for you, so you're not mistaken about this. He said this in October of 2006. The day that leadership of the military comes to me and says, Senator, we ought to change the policy, then I think we ought to consider seriously changing it. Well, that day was today. Mullen, Gates, the rest of the Pentagon coming and saying, we ought to change the policy. And what did John McCain say? Nope, not buying it. So apparently he was totally lying in 2006. So he went to his bag of excuses. First, he had said, oh, the study's not out. Then the study came out, and it showed that 70% of the troops don't mind at all if we repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Because he was saying, oh, no, you got to consider the troops, etc. I'm going to wait for the study. Okay, that's check. Military leaders coming and telling you to repeal it. Check. Then he says about, military cohesion. It's really going to hurt that. Well, here's how the Associated Press reported that challenge and how it was received by Admiral Mullen. Quote, McCain's statement was directly challenged by Defense Secretary Robert Gates and Admiral Mike Mullen, the military's top uniformed officer who chairs the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Repeal of the law will not prove unacceptable risk to military readiness, Mullen told the Senate Armed Services Committee. Quote, unit cohesion will not suffer if our units are well led, and families will not encourage their loved ones to leave the service in droves. So in other words, no, you're wrong, Senator McCain. The military leadership thinks you're wrong. The great majority of the military itself thinks you're wrong. It's time to repeal it. Then McCain says, well, oh yeah, but we're in the middle of 2 wars, and this is not the time to change it. Mullen then says that, in fact, Congress should act before the courts do, and the wartime is the ideal time for a repeal because, quote, war does not stifle change, it demands it. It does not make it harder, it facilitates it. He's like, in other words, look, I need those translators that we kicked out of the Army because they were gay. I need that guy, I need this guy. We need as many hands on deck as we can possibly get because we're in the middle of 2 wars. So there goes McCain's 3rd or 4th nonsense argument. So then he goes to, oh, you know what? I don't believe your study. He says, you only polled 28% of the military. If you know anything about polling, that is the most absurd thing you could possibly say. Polling 28% of the military is gigantic. I'm not sure there's ever been a larger poll that I've ever heard of. To give you a sense of the numbers, they solicited 300,000 service members, and they got 115,000 responses. If that weren't enough, they also got 44,000 responses from the service members' spouses. This poll was gigantic. Now the thing is, you might not know how polling works because you're not in that business. But John McCain's a politician. He knows exactly how polling works. That's part and parcel of being in politics. He knows polls can be perfectly sufficient with well under 1% of the people being polled. And then if you've got a population where 28% are polled, that is probably the most reliable poll you're ever going to get in your entire life. He knows that. He's just run out of excuses. So he's just coming and going, oh, well, I don't know, cohesion, military leaders, polling's bad. Why? Because he doesn't want gays in the military. Doesn't matter what the military leaders want, doesn't matter what the troops want, it's a matter of what Senator McCain wants. It's gotten so bad that even Joe Lieberman, who loves McCain, is on the opposite side of this and saying, oh, Senator McCain, come on, the polling is clear on this. If you've lost Lieberman, McCain, you are way out there on the right. And my God, man, it's McCain and Graham at this point basically holding this thing up. You've lost. It's over. You know, in your best case scenario, you convince the other Republicans to do obstruction, and you obstructed for another, 6 months, another 2 years. But it's over, man. You lost the people. You don't like gays. You don't want them to serve in the military. But the military is now saying, no, we have no problems with people serving with us. In fact, when they asked, and this is how specific the polling got that the Pentagon did. When they asked people who know that they have served with gay service members, was there any problem? 92% said no, there was absolutely no problem and everything was totally fine. John McCain, you're not going to change all their opinions. You're not going to get them to hate gays like you do. Too bad. You lost. Okay? And we're going to have that progress. So you can sit there with your curmudgeon old ass and go, ah, no, I don't want gays in the military. I don't want gays. But the steamroller of history will roll over you. But today, John McCain continued his obstruction no matter how much evidence was in and no matter what he said in 2006, which he is now directly contradicting. I guess if you're a Republican, you don't care much about that these days. And now we have a new sponsor, Thrillist. They're very cool because they hook you up with really interesting things going on in your town or any town you might be in that you don't know about.
Right. They also let you know where the best restaurants, bars, venues are.
Thrillist.com/TYT.